So here's my Pioneer PL-530. Very nice turntable. It's in very nice condition. When I got it though, it had the broken Tonearm mount. The Tonearm, there's a plastic mount and it's poorly designed, and over time the plastic cracks at the base and causes the Tonearm to wobble, and you really can't use the turntable at that point. So I actually made this repair, and you'll probably notice that when I went to put the table back together, I did a very stupid thing and forgot to reinstall the mounting plate. It's actually just an escutcheon that covers it up and makes it all look nice. So I thought this is a fairly common problem with these tables, that when I'm going to go ahead and tear it all back down, and I figured I'll just show you what I did for the repair. So in order to do this repair, you're going to want to flip the table upside down. And first things first, make sure your RCA cables are disconnected, your power cord's disconnected, and then you're going to want to take the Tonearm counterweight. I like to take the cartridge off as well, and you want to make sure you remove your platter mat and platter. And then I put a soft cloth down, and leaving the dust cover attached, I just flip it over carefully. I'll do that and I'll be right back. Now I wanted to mention, along with removing the Tonearm counterweight and the cartridge and the platter mat and platter, you want to make sure that your Tonearm is locked on the rest. Then the next thing you want to do is remove all of these wood screws on the base, and they're just all around the edge. Now that the base is removed, you want to get to your Tonearm base. And in order to do that, you're going to need to remove the automatic return operation, all this mechanism right here. And you can leave all this intact, but you have to remove these 3 screws in order to move this out of the way so that you can get to your Tonearm. Now I've removed the 3 screws, and you just pick this up and carefully move it over to the side. After you've done that, it's probably a good time to get your soldering iron plugged in now, because the next thing you're going to do is remove the cover for the Tonearm wires. You're going to have to remove desolder the Tonearm wires so that you can remove the rest of this assembly here. And this Tonearm, or the Tonearm wire cover here, is just this 1 screw right here. And then you just lift this off. Okay, next you want to remove these wires, your tone arm wires. Okay, now that your tone arm wires are disconnected, the next thing you have to do is remove the rest of this return assembly, this mechanism here, and there's two screws. I don't know if you can see them. I'm pointing with my screwdriver. There's one here, and there's one on the other side. Difficult to see, but it's down under on this side. Once you loosen those screws, this mechanism, the rest of this will you just lift it right off. So once you remove this piece, there you can see the screws a little bit easier there. You're down to the tone arm mounting screws, and that's what these two little screws are right here. Now, once you loosen those, your tone arm is going to be flopping around, be loose. So what I do is I put the turntable up on its side with this side up. And then you can move your dust cover out of the way a little bit, get your hand in there and grab the tone arm as you remove these two screws. Okay, so now I have the turntable up on its side here, just resting on the dust cover. Just be careful. And you just grab hold with your hand on the tone arm here and remove those two screws right there. Okay, so I've removed the tone arm assembly, and you can see here that those two inserts are what the screws were going into. And if you look closely, you'll see how thin that plastic is that those inserts go into, and you can see the glue that I've repaired those holes for. The inserts, when your tone arm breaks there, those inserts, they're just brass bolt type inserts. They'll be left right on the edge right there where those two slots are. That's why I had to pull the escutcheon plate off in the first place, because you actually have to, grab those with your hand as you're loosening those screws off, or you'll lose them. They'll fall down into the mechanism and into the plinth, and you don't want to have to mess around trying to find them. So anyway, you can see how thin the walls of the plastic are on that base. So what I did, I used Gorilla Glue epoxy, and I just carefully dabbed some glue into the cracks and actually glued those inserts in, and clamped and taped the edges there so that you get a good bond, and allow that to dry. I let it go overnight. You want to make sure that that glue is good and hardened. There is another repair that you can do at the same time. Now that you have this out, you'll notice that's the cueing, the tone arm lifter. And another common issue with these tables is that the dampening fluid escapes from that lifter right there and causes your tone arm, as you are lifting and setting down your tone arm with the Q lever, your tone arm just like slams down. Well, that's because you lose the dampening fluid that's down in this chamber right here. So that's an easy fix. You just need to get yourself some dampening fluid, and then in order to release this, there's a tiny little screw up underneath here. If you lift this up, you'll see a tiny little screw, set screw, and you release that, loosen that screw up, and this whole piece will, the arm will come out, the lift arm will come out, and then you can remove this, and there's a little groove in there that you replace the dampening fluid. And once you put that all back together again, then that will make that repair. Your cueing mechanism will function properly again. It'll raise and lower slowly. So anyway, back to this repair. Once that glue hardens up overnight, then you can go ahead and reinstall everything again. Just be sure you put your aluminum escutcheon plate on before you reinstall your tone arm. There, now that your tone arm is reinstalled and your table's back upside down again, just work backwards and put everything back together again. Be very careful when feeding your tone arm wires through this assembly here again. Be real gentle. And when you put these two screws back together here, tighten these two screws, leave a tiny gap in between the lifter right there. Don't, make sure that doesn't bind. Just leave a small gap. Okay, the tone arm wires are soldered back in place. Now it's time to reinstall the cover. Then reinstall the return mechanism. Okay, the mechanism's all back together again. There really isn't a lot of old grease or lubricant or anything on these pivot points. It's never a bad idea just to hit them with a drop of oil, tiny drop of oil. Never hurt anything. And there is one other little thing. You might possibly be having trouble with speed control. But anyway, here's the two pots for the 33 and 45 speed controls. Just if you are having any trouble or you just like to keep up on that, just shoot a little deoxit or contact cleaner in these little holes and work your controls back and forth, and your speed should, your controls should improve. After you get all that done and it's time to put your base back on, put all the screws back in and flip her back over. Okay, so I have it all back up together and back on its feet. Platters back on, platter mat. The cartridge is reinstalled, the Tonearm weight. Everything's been balanced and calibrated. Got the correct tracking force back on, the anti-skate. I just wanted to show you one last little tidbit here. This little hole right here, that's the adjustment for where the arm sets down on the record. So if you hit your start button and your Tonearm, the needle is going too far in or too far out, there's a little tiny screw down in that hole. You can turn it clockwise or counterclockwise depending on which way it's falling, and set that adjustment. So that about wraps it up on this one. I hope this video was helpful to you. It is a difficult repair, but it's very worthwhile. This is an awesome turntable when it works properly. So good luck to you.